Hi, Krista. So today I was on the Facebook and two of my, well, acquaintances, but Facebook friends, posted this article from Huffington Post Gay Voices. It was called RuPaul's Drag Race and the Dangers of Over-Policing Language. So I read the article knowing that I would probably hate it, and it turns out I hated it, but I didn't get into an argument on Facebook. So that is a victory. Instead, I'm choosing to use this platform to have an argument with this article on the internet. Why not? So the article's written by a trans woman, and she's an artist and singer-songwriter, and I hated it. The thesis can be summed up in this extract. As an artist, I love language and cherish free speech. RuPaul has been the #1 defender of these, and at the same time he continues to support every shade of queerness within our community, no matter the class. Drag is punk and should never be subjected to politically correct ideals. The moment it stops provoking is the moment it fails as an art form. Trans people are forever indebted to drag for the mainstream explosion of gender as we see it today. Wow, they managed to fit a lot of stuff I disagree with in a really small space. So let's start with RuPaul as the #1 defender of language and free speech. Because RuPaul recently attacked Miley Cyrus for a tweet with the word faggot in it. I think that that's right, but RuPaul went on to say, quote, derogatory slurs are always an outward projection of a person's own poisonous self-loathing. End quote. I am so glad that we agree. Because free speech does not mean free speech without consequences. Slurs are powerful. In fact, all words are powerful. If you love language so much, maybe you should appreciate the consequences of using language. I'm just gonna gloss over RuPaul as the defender of all shades of queerness. I don't think that's true, but that's all I need to say about that right now. The next bit. Drag is punk and should never be subjected to politically correct ideals. What the fuck does that mean? So let's start with politically correct ideals. What does that mean? Are we saying it shouldn't be critiqued for participating in things that some people consider oppressive? What about all of those concerns about curtailing free speech earlier? Aren't I free to critique you? To say all of the things about how shitty your punk performance is? About how your punk or drag or radical performance did nothing but reinforce existing power structures? Aren't I free to say that? You aren't obligated to listen. You aren't even obligated to change. But part of living in a free society means that I am free to say that is some bullshit. Your punk is a tool of oppression. Moving right along. The moment drag stops provoking is the moment it fails as an art form. I agree in principle, art should be provocative, but what does the art provoke is an important question, because while it is possible for art to work against the grain, to help us to see things that are familiar to us in new ways, to alienate us from the everyday so that we can see our circumstances as containing innate contradictions, like rigid gender roles, for example. However, it's also possible for art to provoke reactionary responses. If your art is dehumanizing, if it marginalizes people, if it encourages us to see existing hierarchies as acceptable, good, beneficial, then your art is bad. It is bad for society. It might be great art, but it is terrible. Moving along to the last bit, trans people are forever indebted to drag for the mainstream explosion of gender as we see it today. I don't know where you're getting your drag history, but it sounds pretty gay-washed to me. Loads of trans people were participating in and originated drag performance. Remember, if you didn't like any part of this critique, freedom of speech! And also you can critique me back. Krista, I will see you tomorrow.